The cold wind blew through the narrow streets of Nova District, a small corner of the alien city where humans were often ignored. Evan, a young man in his late 20s, walked slowly with tired eyes and heavy steps. His coat was thin and his shoes had holes. Every step he took sounded like a soft cry on the wet metal road. Evan was not just tired, he was desperate. His mother lay in a small rented room on the other side of the city. She was sick, coughing every night. The doctors said her lungs were failing, and the medicine she needed cost more than Evan could ever earn. He had already sold everything he owned, his tools, his old books, even his father's watch. But still, it wasn't enough. For the past 3 days, Evan had gone from one factory to another, begging for work. Every door he knocked on, he got the same reply. "We're not hiring humans." He didn't shout, didn't curse. He just bowed his head and moved on. The city lights flickered. Alien workers moved past him, tall beings with silver eyes and smooth blue skin. Some carried boxes. Others floated machines with glowing lights. They barely noticed Evan. To them, humans were weak, slow, and replaceable. Evan stopped at a small corner cafe. The smell of bread filled the air, making his empty stomach twist. He reached into his pocket. Only 1 credit left. Enough for 1 small meal. But he didn't eat. He looked at the flickering sign outside the cafe. Help wanted. His heart jumped. Maybe this was it. Maybe one last chance. He walked toward the door, but then he saw her. A small figure stood under the same flickering sign. She was tiny, maybe 9 or 10 years old. Her skin was pale lavender, her hair white as snow, and her clothes torn and dirty. The rain made her shiver. She held a piece of cardboard with shaky hands. On it, written in broken letters, "Work for food." Evan froze. The girl looked up at him, her eyes glowing faint blue. Not angry, not afraid, but pleading. She looked hungry, weak, and lost. "Hey," Evan said softly. "You shouldn't be standing here. It's cold." The girl blinked, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, don't tell them I'm here." Evan frowned. "Who?" But she didn't answer. Her small body shook as a hoverbike passed by, lights flashing. She quickly hid her face under her hood. Something was wrong. Evan could feel it. He reached into his pocket and took out his last credit. "Here, buy food." The girl shook her head. "No, they'll see. Please go." Her voice cracked at the end, and it broke something inside Evan. He sighed, looked at the cafe again, then back at her. "Okay," he said, "come with me. You'll freeze out here." She didn't move at first, but when thunder rumbled across the sky, she took 1 small step toward him. Then another. Evan guided her to the side street where it was darker and quieter. The rain poured harder now, hitting the metal roofs like drumbeats. Inside a narrow shelter, he gave her his scarf. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked at him, eyes glowing faintly again. "Lyra." "Lyra," he repeated softly. "That's a nice name." She tilted her head. "You human?" He nodded with a weak smile. "Yeah. And you?" Her voice trembled. "They call us healers, but they don't want us anymore." Evan frowned. "Why not?" She didn't reply. She just looked down, hugging her knees. He didn't push further. He had seen enough sadness in his own life to recognize when someone carried too much pain. After a few minutes, Lyra whispered, "You are looking for work?" Evan chuckled bitterly. "Yeah, to buy medicine for my mom, she's sick." Lyra looked up slowly. "My mother, too. They took her away because she was sick." For a moment, their worlds met. 2 lives broken by the same pain. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed from the main street. Lyra's eyes widened in terror. She crawled closer to Evan. Voices shouted in the alien tongue, then one in English. "Find the runaway child, alive." Evan turned toward the sound, his heart racing. Lyra's tiny hand grabbed his arm. Her eyes glowed brighter now. "Please," she whispered, trembling. "Don't let them take me." Evan looked at the alley's exit, then at her frightened face. He didn't know who she was or why they were after her. But something deep inside him, maybe the same love he felt for his own mother, told him what he needed to do. He took a deep breath. "Okay, kid," he said quietly. "Stay behind me. I'll handle this." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "They will hurt you." Evan smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I've got nothing left to lose." The footsteps grew louder. The light of a patrol drone appeared at the end of the alley. Evan's boots splashed through puddles as he ran, holding the little alien girl's hand. Behind them, metal footsteps echoed, the sound of patrol soldiers chasing. The city's neon lights flashed red and blue against the wet streets, reflecting in the puddles like fire and lightning. "Left," Evan whispered, pulling her into a narrow alley between two factories. Steam hissed from vents, hiding them in fog. He pressed his back to the wall, breathing fast, trying to stay quiet. Lyra's small body shook. Her pale lavender skin looked even colder under the rain. "They're close," she whispered, her glowing eyes dimming. Evan peeked around the corner. 3 alien guards in black armor were scanning the area with blue searchlights. Their helmets had glowing visors, and their voices were harsh and mechanical. "Subject 47 is near," one said. "She cannot hide for long." Evan's heart pounded. Subject 47? That meant they were hunting Lyra like an experiment, not a child. He turned back to her. "Why are they calling you that? What did you do?" Lyra hugged her knees and whispered, "They took my mother, and others like me. We can heal. They wanted to use us." Evan stared. "Use you? For what?" Her eyes filled with tears. "For war. For rich people. They take our blood. It makes their soldiers strong. Their sick people live longer. My mother tried to stop them, so they took her away." Evan felt cold inside. He looked at her trembling body and remembered his own mother coughing alone in their tiny room. The universe could be cruel, too cruel for children like Lyra. He placed his coat around her shoulders. "Don't worry," he said softly. "You're safe now." But even as he said the words, he heard the sound of the drones again, closer this time. They couldn't stay here. "Come on," he whispered. "We'll go to my place. You can rest there." Lyra looked up nervously. "Why help me? Humans don't help my kind." Evan smiled faintly. "Because someone has to." They moved quickly through the dark streets until they reached the old industrial zone. There, hidden under a bridge, was Evan's home. A small, metal room with a flickering heater, 1 broken chair, and a bed where his mother slept. When they entered, his mother, Mara, woke up slowly. Her face was pale, but her eyes were gentle. "Evan, who's this?" she asked weakly. Evan hesitated. "Someone who needed help." Lyra bowed her head shyly. "Hello, ma'am." Mara smiled faintly. "Such a polite child. Come warm yourself." Evan helped Lyra sit near the heater. Steam rose from her wet clothes. For the first time, she relaxed a little. Mara coughed softly. "Evan, did you eat?" He shook his head. "Not yet." Mara smiled sadly. "You always put others before yourself." As she spoke, Lyra's glowing eyes turned toward her. The old woman's breathing was weak, her chest tight with pain. Lyra's face changed. She looked sad. "Your mother is sick," she said softly. Evan nodded. "Yes. The medicine costs more than I can make in a year." Lyra looked down. "I can help her." Evan frowned. "How?" Lyra reached into her pocket and pulled out a small glass vial filled with glowing dust. She poured a tiny bit into the water cup and stirred it gently. The liquid turned blue and bright like stars trapped in a bottle. "Give her this," she whispered. Evan hesitated. "What is it?" Lyra looked him in the eyes. "It's part of me." He didn't understand, but he trusted her. Carefully, he gave his mother the glowing drink. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Mara's breathing slowed, and her eyes opened wider. The color returned to her cheeks. "Evan," she whispered in disbelief. "I can breathe. It doesn't hurt anymore." Evan's heart jumped. He turned to Lyra. The girl sat quietly, her hands glowing faint blue but her face pale, as if the act had drained her energy. "What did you do?" he asked softly. She smiled weakly. "Just helped, like my mother used to." Evan knelt beside her. "You saved her. You saved my mom." Lyra's eyes sparkled for a moment, then she whispered, "Don't tell anyone. If they find out, they'll take me too." Evan nodded. "I won't. You have my word." Outside, thunder echoed again. But this time, the sound mixed with something mechanical, the hum of a patrol drone passing overhead. Evan's screen on the wall flickered suddenly. A red message appeared in large letters. "Alert. Human male seen aiding alien fugitive. Reward, 10,000 credits." His blood ran cold. He turned slowly toward Lyra. She looked frightened. "They know," she whispered. "They'll come." Evan clenched his fists. He looked at his sleeping mother, now peaceful for the first time in weeks. He looked at the little alien girl who had just saved her life. There was no question in his heart anymore. "I won't let them take you," he said. "You saved her. Now I'll save you." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly again, but this time not from fear, from hope. The pounding on the metal door grew louder, each hit sending vibrations through the small room. Evan's mother stirred, half awake but too weak to move. Lyra's small fingers clung tightly to Evan's sleeve. Her glowing blue eyes were wide with fear. "Open up, human," a voice boomed from outside. "You're hiding government property. Don't make this harder. Government property." Those words made Evan's stomach twist. How could they call a child property? The door shook again. They didn't have much time. Evan turned to Lyra and whispered, "Follow me. Stay close no matter what happens." She nodded, trembling. He grabbed his mother's old jacket and wrapped it around Lyra's shoulders. It was far too big for her, but it hid her glowing eyes and lavender skin. Then he pressed a button near the back wall. A small maintenance hatch opened with a hiss. It led to an old tunnel used for water pipes and trash disposal. "This way," he whispered. The door behind them cracked as the soldiers forced it open. Sparks flew. Evan pushed Lyra into the tunnel first, then crawled after her. The smell of metal and oil filled the air. They moved fast through the darkness, their breathing loud in the narrow space. Behind them, heavy boots entered the room. "They're gone." "Search the tunnels!" Evan and Lyra crawled faster. The tunnel sloped downwards, leading to the city's lower sector, a place forgotten by most. When they finally reached a small exit grate, Evan peeked outside. It opened into a dark alley lit only by a single red lamp. He pushed the grate open quietly and helped Lyra climb out. She looked exhausted. Her tiny body was shaking from fear and cold. Evan took off his gloves and rubbed her hands gently. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. "I'm sorry. You'll get in trouble because of me." Evan smiled softly. "Trouble's already here, kid. Might as well make it worth it." For a moment, the corners of her mouth lifted, a small smile that barely lasted before more sirens echoed in the distance. They moved quickly through the maze of back streets. Steam rose from vents covering their path. Every shadow felt dangerous. Every sound made them freeze. Lyra suddenly stopped. "Wait," she whispered, her eyes glowing faintly again. "They're scanning for heat signatures." Evan frowned. "How do you know?" "I can feel them," she said softly. "They're machines. They're watching." He didn't understand how, but he trusted her. They ducked behind a pile of old crates and waited as two patrol drones floated past, their red scanners sweeping the area. The light passed over their hiding spot, and for a second it stopped. Lyra closed her eyes and placed her hand on the crate. Her skin glowed bright blue for a heartbeat. The scanner blinked, confused, and then moved away. Evan stared at her in disbelief. "You can do that too?" She opened her eyes slowly, breathing hard. "Only for a moment." "It hides us," Evan smiled slightly. "Remind me never to play hide and seek with you." They continued moving until they reached an abandoned workshop. Inside, old tools and machines were covered in dust. Evan found a small heater and turned it on, giving the room a faint warm glow. Lyra sat near it, hugging her knees. She looked so small and fragile in the flickering light. Evan sat across from her. "You saved my mother. I owe you everything." Lyra looked up, her voice soft. "No one ever said that to me before." He leaned forward. "You've been running a long time, haven't you?" She nodded slowly. "Since the night they came for us. My mother told me to hide. She said, 'Run until you find someone kind.'" Evan's throat tightened. "She was brave." "She was," Lyra whispered. "But I don't know if she's still alive." Evan wanted to say something comforting, but before he could, a loud beep echoed from his wrist communicator. He looked down. A message flashed on the screen. "Tracking signal active. All fugitives must surrender immediately." He cursed under his breath. "They're tracing me now." Lyra's eyes widened. "Through the communicator?" He nodded. "Yeah. They tagged me when I signed up for work last week." Without hesitation, she grabbed his wrist. "Give it to me." "What are you—" But before he could finish, she pressed her glowing hand against the device. It sparked once, then went completely dead. The smell of burnt metal filled the air. Evan blinked. "You killed it," she smiled weakly. "Now they can't find us." He looked at her, both amazed and worried. "Lyra, you're just a kid. How do you even know how to do all this?" Her eyes darkened. "Because I wasn't born free. They taught us how their machines work, so we could fix them after they hurt us." Silence filled the room. The heater hummed softly. Evan's heart ached for her. He finally stood. "We can't stay here long. They'll check every building." Lyra looked up. "Where will we go?" Evan looked out the broken window, seeing the distant lights of the industrial sky. "There's an old train yard near the spaceport. No one goes there anymore. If we can reach it, we can hide on a cargo ship." Lyra nodded. "Then we go." Evan picked up a small backpack. A few tools, some food, a photo of his mother. He looked back one last time at the workshop. "This city doesn't forgive kindness," he murmured. As they stepped out into the cold rain again, Lyra slipped her hand into his. "Then we'll be kind anyway," she said softly. Evan smiled faintly. "Deal." But far above them, on a patrol tower, a drone locked onto their heat signatures and sent a silent alert to its commander. Rain fell endlessly that night, painting the metal city in shades of gray and sorrow. The world above shone with flashing signs, but down here, in the lower districts, light was rare and life was cheap. Evan and Lyra moved silently through the shadows, their wet clothes clinging to their bodies, their hearts pounding with fear and hope mixed together. They finally stopped near an abandoned train yard. Giant cargo trains rested like dead beasts under the dim moonlight. Broken lights flickered on rusted walls. The air smelled of oil, dust, and loneliness. "This is it," Evan whispered, checking every corner before entering an old train car. "No one comes here anymore." Lyra followed him quietly. She was tired, her steps weak, but her eyes still glowed faintly in the dark. Inside the train car, there was only a broken bench and a few old blankets. Evan spread one on the floor. "You should rest," he said gently. "You haven't slept since yesterday." She shook her head. "I'm fine," Evan smiled softly. "You always say that. You're a terrible liar." Her small lips curved into a shy smile for a moment, then faded again. "They'll find us, won't they?" He sighed, sitting beside her. "Maybe, but we'll keep running. Until I find a way to fix this." Lyra tilted her head. "Fix what?" "Everything," he said quietly. "The way this world treats people like you. The way it breaks people like my mom. It's wrong." Silence fell between them. The sound of distant thunder echoed like slow, angry drums. After a while, Evan's stomach growled softly. He laughed under his breath. "Sorry, guess I'm hungry too." He pulled out a small food bar, cracked it in half, and gave the bigger piece to her. "For you," he said. Her eyes widened. "But you eat," he insisted with a grin. "You need it more than me." She hesitated, but finally took it. As she chewed slowly, she looked at him in a way no one ever had before, not as a human or stranger, but as someone who cared. That quiet moment didn't last long. A sudden flash of light appeared outside, the glow of a hovering patrol drone sweeping the yard. Evan froze. "Down," he whispered. They dropped to the floor as the drone passed by, its scanners humming. Lyra held her breath, her small hands gripping Evan's sleeve tightly. The drone's red eye paused for a second near the window, then moved away. After a long minute, the noise faded. Evan exhaled. That was close. Lyra's glowing eyes dimmed again. They're getting closer. I can feel them. He looked at her curiously. Feel them? How? She touched her chest lightly. Our kind can sense energy. Machines, life, even pain. It's part of what makes us healers. Evan frowned. You mean you can feel when someone's hurt? She nodded slowly. I can feel your mother. She's weak again. His eyes widened. What? But she was fine when we left. Lyra looked down sadly. My healing doesn't last long when it's done from far away. It needs connection. Evan stood up immediately. We have to go back. Lyra shook her head quickly. No, they're watching your home now. If you go back, they'll catch you. He clenched his fists. I can't just leave her. She looked into his eyes, and her voice soft but sure. Then I'll help her from here. He didn't understand how, but he trusted her. Lyra closed her eyes, took a slow breath, and placed her glowing hands over her heart. The air in the train car changed. It felt warmer, alive, filled with soft blue light. Evan watched as the glow spread from her hands to her hair and skin, turning the space around her into a calm ocean of light. Then her voice, faint but clear, echoed like a whisper. Heal, kind mother. Breathe again. For a few seconds, the light filled the train, then slowly faded. Lyra fell forward, breathing hard, her face pale. Evan caught her before she hit the floor. Lyra, hey, stay with me! She opened her eyes weakly. It's done. She's safe now. Evan felt tears sting his eyes. He pulled her into a careful hug. You did it again. You saved her. Again, she smiled faintly. That's what healers do. But then, the distant hum of engines filled the air, louder this time. Evan looked out through the small window and saw them. 4 black hovercrafts landing near the train yard. Soldiers poured out, their weapons glowing red. They found us, he whispered. Lyra stood shakily, still weak. Run? Evan shook his head. No time, we need to hide inside one of the trains. They moved quickly, running between the giant metal cars. Evan's breath came fast, his heart racing. The soldiers' lights swept through the darkness, cutting the fog like knives. One of them shouted, They're here! Scan the area. Evan and Lyra ducked into a broken freight car filled with old crates. He covered her with a blanket, then crouched beside her. Outside, footsteps grew closer. He could hear the soldiers' boots scraping metal. Evan whispered, No matter what happens, don't make a sound. The soldier's shadow moved past the door, then stopped. The blanket around Lyra glowed faintly blue. Evan's heart dropped. The soldier turned back, raising his scanner. The air in the train yard was heavy with smoke and tension. The blue light that exploded from Lyra's hands had faded, leaving behind silence and one unconscious soldier lying on the ground, his armor cracked, but his body unharmed. Evan stared at the man in shock. What did you do? He whispered. Lyra's breathing was fast. Her small hands trembled. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to stop him. You froze him, Evan said softly. He's alive, but he's not moving. Lyra looked frightened. It happens when I get scared. I don't like hurting anyone. Evan placed a hand on her shoulder. You didn't hurt him. You protected us. She looked down, whispering, That's what my mother used to say, before they took her. Outside, the sounds of more engines echoed. More soldiers were coming. Evan knew they had only minutes before the yard was surrounded. He looked at the soldier's communicator blinking on the ground. The words target confirmed. Reinforcements inbound flashed in red. Evan's jaw tightened. We need to move now. He grabbed Lyra's hand, leading her out through the back of the train yard. Rain poured harder, soaking them both. But this time, Lyra wasn't the only one shivering. Evan's heart was at war with itself. He couldn't stop thinking about his mother. He had left her behind, alone, weak, defenseless. And now the entire city was searching for him because of this little alien girl. They finally reached a quiet alley behind an old warehouse. Evan stopped, breathing heavily. He leaned against the wall, staring at the wet ground. Evan? Lyra's soft voice broke the silence. He didn't answer. Are you angry? She asked. He closed his eyes. No. I'm scared. She moved closer. Because of me? He turned to face her. The rain dripped from his hair. His voice was tired, broken. Because I don't know what to do anymore. If I keep helping you, they'll find us and kill us both. And my mother." He stopped, his throat tightening. Lyra lowered her head. "You can turn me in," she said quietly. "They'll give you money. Enough to save her." Evan looked at her in disbelief. "What are you saying?" She met his eyes with calm sadness. "It's what people do. My kind is worth a lot to them. You can take the reward and your mother will live." The words cut through him like a knife. For a moment he couldn't breathe. He looked at the little alien girl standing in the rain, small and fragile, offering herself like she was nothing more than a thing to trade. "No," he said finally, shaking his head. "You're not property. You're not some prize." She blinked in surprise. "But your mother, she wouldn't want me to do that," he said firmly. "She raised me to protect people, not sell them." Lyra's eyes filled with tears that glowed faintly blue in the dark. "You're the first human who ever said that to me." Evan gave a small smile. "Then maybe I'm the first one worth knowing." But their brief peace ended when a voice echoed from the shadows. "Touching speech. Human," said a tall figure in black armor, stepping forward with a blaster in hand. "But the girl doesn't belong to you." Evan froze. The soldier aimed his weapon straight at Lyra. Lyra hid behind him, trembling. "Step aside," the soldier ordered coldly. "You've caused enough trouble. I'll make sure she's properly contained." Evan didn't move. "She's a child." "Let her go," the soldier laughed. "You think she's a child? That thing is a weapon. And you're harboring it." Evan clenched his fists. "No, she's not a weapon. She's a person." The soldier's eyes narrowed. Last warning. For a few seconds, the world stood still, the rain falling softly, the hum of the blaster charging, the sound of Lyra's frightened breath behind him. Then Evan stepped forward, putting himself between the soldier and the girl. "Shoot me then," he said quietly. "Because you're not touching her." The soldier smirked. "Fine." A flash of red light burst through the air, but before it hit, Lyra screamed. Her eyes flared bright blue again, and the air itself seemed to twist. The red beam stopped midair and vanished into mist. The soldier dropped his blaster, backing away in terror. "What are you?" Lyra's voice echoed, trembling and full of pain. "I don't want to hurt anyone. Please stop." The man turned and ran into the darkness, leaving his weapon behind. When the light faded, Lyra fell to her knees, breathing heavily. Evan rushed to her side. "Lyra, it's okay. It's over." She looked up at him, tears mixing with rain. "They'll keep coming, Evan. They'll never stop." He nodded slowly. "Then we won't stop either." He helped her to her feet, his hand steady on her shoulder. From far away, sirens began to wail again. Evan looked up at the night sky. "We have to leave the city tonight." Lyra stared at him, scared but trusting. "Where will we go?" He smiled faintly. "Somewhere they can't follow. Somewhere free." The city never slept. Even at night, its steel towers glowed like sharp teeth under the stormy sky. The streets below were alive with lights, machines, and voices. But somewhere in those shadows, two figures moved fast. A tired human man and a fragile alien girl who shouldn't have survived this long. Evan pulled Lyra behind him through the narrow back alleys. The rain fell harder now, washing dirt and blood down the drains. His heart pounded. Every step echoed like thunder in his chest. They had escaped the soldier. But the city wasn't done hunting them yet. Hovering drones flew overhead, their red searchlights sweeping the streets. Loudspeakers blared across the city. "Attention, citizens. A human male and alien subject are wanted for treason. Report any sightings immediately." Lyra winced at the sound of her title. Subject. Her small hand tightened around Evan's. "They'll find us soon," she whispered, her voice trembling. Evan nodded grimly. "Not if we get to the old spaceport first. Cargo ships leave every few hours. If we can sneak onto one, we'll be free." She looked up at him with tired eyes. "Free? What does that feel like?" He hesitated. "I'm not sure, but maybe we can find out together." They moved quietly through the maze of pipes and old factories. The air smelled like rust and smoke. At every corner, Evan checked for patrols before signaling Lyra to follow. His clothes were soaked and his arms ached, but he didn't stop. Behind them, sirens wailed. "Closer now. Move," he whispered sharply. They darted across an open street just as a group of soldiers appeared from the opposite end. One of them shouted, "There! Stop them!" Blaster fire lit the night with red flashes. Evan ducked behind a pile of crates, pulling Lyra down with him. Sparks flew as bullets hit metal inches from their heads. "We can't outrun them," Lyra cried. Evan's mind raced. "Then we don't. We hide." He looked around and spotted a broken service tunnel nearby, half covered with trash and metal sheets. He grabbed her hand and ran. They slipped through the opening just as a drone scanned the area above. Inside the tunnel, it was dark and narrow. The sound of the outside world faded, replaced by dripping water and the hum of old machinery. Lyra breathed heavily, leaning against the wall. Her glowing eyes flickered weakly. Evan knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I used too much energy before. It makes me weak." He reached into his pocket and offered her a small piece of bread. "Eat, it'll help." She smiled faintly and took it. "You always give me food even when you have none." Evan shrugged. "Guess I'm a terrible survivor." "No," she whispered. "You're good." Her words made something warm rise in his chest, but the moment didn't last. A loud metallic clank echoed behind them. Someone or something was coming through the tunnel. Evan grabbed a rusty pipe from the floor and motioned for Lyra to stay quiet. He crouched near the entrance, muscles tense, waiting. A shadow moved in the darkness, slow and heavy. Then a deep voice spoke, "Relax, human. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be." From the shadow stepped a tall alien man, his armor cracked, his eyes tired. He raised his hands to show he wasn't armed. "Who are you?" Evan demanded. The alien nodded toward Lyra, her protector. "I was part of the resistance before they wiped us out." Lyra's eyes widened. "You knew my mother?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, she sent me to find you if she didn't survive." Evan lowered the pipe slowly. "Then you know how to get us out of here?" The man looked toward the exit. "There's an old freight lift that leads to the upper docks. It's dangerous, but it's your only chance." Evan helped Lyra stand. "Then we'll take it." The alien looked at Evan for a moment and smiled faintly. "You risked your life for her. That makes you different from most of your kind." Evan sighed. "Maybe I just got tired of watching the universe hurt good people." They followed the alien through the tunnel, climbing rusted ladders and squeezing through tight gaps until they reached a large round door. The alien pressed a sequence on the control panel. With a hiss, it opened to a wide elevator platform covered in dust and cables. "Once you're up there," he said, "head for the cargo ship with blue markings. It's unguarded. It'll take you beyond their reach." Evan nodded. "Come with us." The alien shook his head. "My time is over." "Theirs isn't." Before Evan could reply, the sound of engines roared again. Soldiers were approaching fast. "Go!" the alien shouted, drawing his old weapon. "I'll hold them off." Evan grabbed Lyra and stepped onto the lift. The alien hit the button and the platform began to rise. As they ascended, Lyra looked down with tears in her eyes. "He's fighting alone." Evan placed a hand on her shoulder. "He's giving us a chance. We can't waste it." The lift shook as explosions echoed below. Smoke rose through the tunnel. When they finally reached the top, the night air hit their faces like cold fire. Ahead of them stretched the massive spaceport, bright, loud, full of ships preparing to leave. Evan pointed toward the far end where a blue-marked cargo ship waited. "There it is." Lyra's eyes lit up. "We made it?" "Almost," he said. "Just one more step." But then loud sirens blared across the port. The massive screen above flickered to life, showing their faces in red. The spaceport burned with light and noise. Sirens wailed across the metal skyways, echoing like angry thunder. The ground shook beneath Evan's feet as he ran, carrying Lyra in his arms. The blue-marked cargo ship was only a few hundred meters away. But behind them, soldiers poured in from every direction, weapons glowing red. "Stop them!" Someone shouted. Blaster shots exploded around them. Sparks flew from the walls. Evan ducked behind a supply crate, breathing hard. His muscles screamed in pain, but he didn't stop. Lyra clung to him, her small arms wrapped around his neck. "They're everywhere," she whispered, trembling. "We'll never make it." "Yes, we will," he said, eyes burning with determination. "I didn't come this far to lose now." He peeked out and saw a group of soldiers blocking the main ramp to the cargo ship. The engines were already powering up, rumbling with deep thunder. The ship was leaving soon, and if they missed it, there wouldn't be another chance. Evan looked around desperately. His gaze fell on a hover transport nearby, damaged but still active. He smirked. "Hold on tight." Before Lyra could ask, he sprinted toward the transport, jumped inside, and slammed the controls. The machine groaned but came to life. With a roar, it lifted off the ground. Evan steered it straight toward the soldiers at the ramp. They turned, shouting in alarm, but it was too late. The hover transport crashed into their line, scattering them in every direction. The explosion threw Evan forward, pain shooting through his arm. He hit the ground hard, rolling to a stop. "Evan!" Lyra cried, crawling to him. He winced but smiled. "Still alive. Let's move." They stumbled up the ramp as alarms screamed around them. The cargo ship's doors were closing. A robotic voice announced, "Departure in 10 seconds." Evan ran, pushing his body past its limit. Lyra grabbed his hand and used her glowing energy to give them one final burst of speed. Together, they leaped through the shrinking gap just as the heavy doors sealed behind them. They collapsed on the cold floor, gasping for breath. The ship shook as it lifted off, breaking through the storm clouds and into the dark sky. For the first time in what felt like forever, silence. Lyra looked out the small window. The city below grew smaller and smaller until it was just a cluster of lights fading into the endless black. "Is it over?" she whispered. Evan sat beside her, breathing slowly. "Yeah," he said softly. "It's over." Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder. "We're free?" He nodded. "Free." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The stars shimmered outside, stretching like rivers of light. It was beautiful, peaceful. Evan had never seen space from this close. After a while, Lyra looked up at him. "Evan, what happens now?" He smiled gently. "Now we start again. Find a new place. A safe one." Her small voice broke the quiet. "You could have sold me. Saved your mother. Why didn't you?" He looked at her with sad, kind eyes. "Because saving one life by destroying another isn't saving anything. My mom taught me that." Lyra smiled faintly. "She must be a good person." "She is," he said softly. "She's the reason I still believe there's hope." The ship's AI voice interrupted. "Approaching neutral sector." "Prepare for docking," Evan helped Lyra stand. "Come on, kid. Let's see where fate's taking us." As they walked down the corridor, Lyra suddenly stopped. "Evan, wait." He turned. She reached up and touched his arm. A faint blue light spread across his torn sleeve. His wounds, the cuts and burns from the battle, began to close. He stared at her in surprise. "Lyra, what are you—" She smiled. "You've been hurt enough." Evan's chest tightened with emotion. He knelt and hugged her gently. "You don't have to heal me. Just being alive is enough." For a moment, the two of them stayed like that. One human, one alien, sharing warmth in the cold emptiness of space. But somewhere deep inside the ship, a red light blinked on a control panel. The words flashed. "Unauthorized passengers detected." Lyra saw it first. "They know we're here." Evan's eyes hardened. "Then we'll make them understand we're not the enemy." The ship shuddered as heavy footsteps approached from the upper deck. A tall figure appeared, a woman in a long coat with symbols of the Galactic Authority on her shoulder. Her voice was calm, powerful. "You're the human and the healer child everyone's looking for," she said. "You've caused quite a storm." Evan stepped in front of Lyra. "If you're here to arrest us, you'll have to kill me first." The woman smiled slightly. "Relax, human. I'm not your enemy. The council is gone. Many of us have seen what they did to her kind. We're rebuilding." Lyra's eyes widened. "You're helping healers?" The woman nodded. "And we could use people like you, both of you. Brave enough to care." Evan looked at Lyra. She smiled softly, hope shining in her eyes for the first time. He turned back to the woman. "Then let's build something better." The woman extended her hand. "Welcome aboard." As the stars stretched before them and the ship jumped into hyperspace, Lyra pressed her face against the window, watching the universe blur into rivers of light. Evan stood beside her, his heart full for the first time in years. "You see that, Lyra?" he said quietly. "That's our new beginning." She smiled, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars. "It's beautiful, just like my mother said the future would be." He placed a hand over hers. "Then let's make her proud." The two of them stood side by side, watching the endless cosmos unfold. No longer fugitives, no longer alone, just two souls who chose kindness over fear.